Hello Warhammer explorers. Before we dive in, hit subscribe so the next transmission isn't lost to the warp. Every click tells me to keep building this universe with you. What if the Emperor of Mankind arrived in How to Train Your Dragon? On the golden throne of Terra, the Emperor feels a strange, quiet world brush the edge of his mind. He sees small human tribes, iron and wood, and great-scaled beasts who should be weapons, but who fly as friends beside them. If he can learn how these people and dragons share trust, he might yet save his own broken Imperium from endless war. So he shapes a shard of his will into a narrow golden spear of thought and drives it through the warp toward that distant sky. Knowing every heartbeat away weakens the throne and invites demons. The spear hits, the air of that world screams, and a burning tear opens above the island of Berk as a golden figure falls through. The sky over Berk is clear at first. Dragons wheel and dive, black and blue and green shapes cutting through the air. Hiccup rides Toothless high above the village, checking the watch posts, listening to the happy roars and the rush of the wind. For a moment, everything feels right. Then the world shakes. The air above them splits like a wound. A ring of white fire burns open in the blue sky, wider than the village, and a deep, wrong sound rolls across the sea. Dragons cry out in fear. Even Toothless, Night Fury and Alpha, flattens his ears and growls. Hiccup, Astrid shouts from the back of Stormfly, flying closer. What is that? I don't know. Hiccup breathes. His metal foot vibrates on the saddle as the sound grows louder. He feels it in his chest, like drums on the inside of his bones. Inside the burning ring, they all see something impossible. For just a heartbeat, there is a huge shape, no dragon, no ship. It is a grey metal giant in the void, with cannons like mountains and towers of light. In rows inside, towering warriors stand in armor thicker than any Viking shield, each holding a gun as long as a boat. Then the view snaps shut, like a door slammed. Only one thing falls through. A man, but more than a man, drops from the tear in the sky. He is wrapped in golden armor that shines like the sun. He holds a great blade in one hand, its edge a calm, pale fire. He falls straight toward Berk. Hiccup! Someone screams from below. The whole village is staring up now. Children clutch at parents. Vikings grip axes and spears, not sure who or what to fight. Down, bud, Hiccup says. Toothless folds his wings and dives. The wind claws at Hiccup's face. The falling figure grows bigger and bigger. If he hits the island at that speed, he will smash houses, dragons, people, everything. The golden man lifts one hand. The sound in Hiccup's bones becomes sharp, like a single clear note. A sphere of invisible force blossoms around the falling figure. The air bends and flashes, bright lines like glass cracking and then healing. The fall slows. He lands in the clearing above the village with a thunderclap instead of an explosion. The ground bursts, dirt and stone, spraying out in a wide ring. Trees snap, roofs shake, but Berk is not shattered. Toothless flares his wings and lands at the edge of the smoking crater. Hiccup stares down. The stranger rises from one knee. He is huge. Even standing in a hole, he is almost as tall as an adder. His armor is worked gold and black, covered in tiny carvings that move when you do not look straight at them. A warm light burns behind the narrow eye slits of his helm. The great sword in his fist gives off no heat, but Hiccup's skin prickles when he looks at it. The man's presence feels heavy, like the weight of all of Berk's rocks stacked in one place, but it is also calm. He turns his helm slowly, taking everything in. Dragons circle in the air above, growling. Hiccup's heart beats fast, but he nudges Toothless forward. He is chief now. He has to move first. Easy, bud, he whispers. He raises both hands to show he holds no weapon. Hello down there, he calls, forcing his voice to carry. You, took quite a fall. The golden helm turns toward him. The man steps up out of the crater in one smooth move, dirt sliding off his armor like dust off a statue. Standing at full height, he towers over Hiccup and Toothless. Up close, Hiccup sees the skin behind the eye slits. Human, old, but strong. You are Hiccup, son of Stoic the Vast, the stranger says. His voice is deep but clear, each word shaped like a command. He speaks perfect Norse, but with an accent that does not belong to any island. Hiccup pulls back a little in surprise. Okay, that's not creepy at all, he says softly. Then louder. Yeah, that's me, Chief of Berk. I am the Emperor of Mankind, the stranger replies. He says it not as a boast, but as a simple fact. Your world brushed my mind. I came. Toothless bares his teeth and hisses, blue sparks crackling between them. The Emperor looks up at him. For a moment, dragon and man hold each other's gaze. A wave of pressure rolls out from the Emperor, like a silent shout. Dragons all over Berk stiffen. Some try to flee. Toothless snarls and spreads his wings, fighting an urge to bow. Stop, Hiccup snaps, pushing a hand into Toothless's neck. He looks up at the golden giant. Whatever you're doing, you're scaring them. The pressure eases. The Emperor's head tilts, as if he is listening to something far away. They are weapons, he says, and more. I see that now. You dare much, child, riding one such as this. Yeah, well, Hiccup says, both hands still up. That's kind of our thing. A heavy thump sounds behind him. Astrid and Stormfly land, followed by Snotlout on Hookfang, the twins on Barf and Belch, Fishlegs on Meatlug. More dragons crowd the ridge, eyes fixed on the stranger. From below, the village gates slam open. Vikings pour out, armed and shouting, but they slow when they see Toothless standing between Hiccup and the golden man instead of attacking him. Valka arrives last on Cloudjumper, 4 wings beating hard as she lands beside Hiccup. Her mask hides most of her face, but Hiccup hears the worry in her breath. I felt it in the dragons, she says quietly. That tear, that mind. He is not from this world, Hiccup. I guessed, Hiccup mutters. Then louder. This is my mother, Valka. She, speaks dragon, sort of. And that's pretty much the whole village behind us. You've got everyone's attention. The Emperor studies Valka for a moment. Guardian of beasts, he says. You have walked close to fire for many years. Valka stiffens, her eyes narrow. I do not know what you are, Emperor, she says, but the dragons fear you. That is enough reason to be careful. I do not fear him, Toothless growls, surprising even himself by speaking so strongly. His scales pulse faintly blue. Hiccup feels the words more than hears them, flowing through the bond they share. The Emperor's head turns slightly, as if he heard the dragon too. He nods. Good, he says softly. Fear must not rule, not here. Before anyone can answer, the sea answers instead. A horn sounds from one of the watchtowers, long and low. Another follows, then another, the warning call for ships. Hiccup spins in the saddle and looks out toward the water. The horizon crawls. Dark shapes move together, too many for a normal raid. Ships with cruel, sharp prows and high black sails, massing like a floating forest. Between the ships, tall iron cages rise, each holding chained dragons that strain and scream. Astrid swears under her breath. Dragon hunters, she says, a lot of them. Flags snap in the wind. They carry a symbol Hiccup has seen too many times, a horned skull painted red. Drago Bludvist's mark. That doesn't make sense, Hiccup whispers. Drago's gone. We saw him fall. He survived, Valka says, her voice tight. Or someone took his banner. Whoever leads that fleet, they have learned his tricks. As if to prove it, the water between the ships boils. Something huge moves beneath the waves, larger than any dragon Hiccup has ever seen, even the Bewilderbeast. Faint horns break the surface, then sink again. They know about Berk, Astrid says. They know about the dragons. They must have been waiting for a moment we were distracted. Hiccup glances at the Emperor. The golden giant is already watching the fleet with eyes that see more than human sight. They smell the wound in the sky, he says. They gather like predators near a bleeding beast. You brought that wound, Valka snaps. Her knuckles are white on Cloudjumper's reins. If they came because of you, they came because they are what they are, the Emperor says calmly. But my presence will change how this plays out. He strides past Hiccup to the edge of the cliff. Each step shakes the ground. He raises his sword. The air thickens. Hiccup feels it as a pressure, like a storm building inside his head. The dragons shudder. Clouds whirl around the still open tear in the sky, thin and pale now, letting through only a faint golden glow. Wait, Hiccup says, steering Toothless in front of the Emperor. You can't just blast them. There are dragons in those cages, and people. I don't want a sea of bodies because we panicked. The Emperor looks down at him. In my realm, he says, fleets like that are broken from orbit. One order, one strike. No risk to the worlds behind me. It is efficient. Yeah, well, this isn't your realm, Hiccup answers, heart pounding. This is my home. We do things different here. We save who we can, even if it's hard. Silence hangs between them. The only sounds are the wind and the distant creak of hunter ships. Finally, the Emperor lowers his blade a little. You would spare even those who chain and torture your allies, he asks. I'd stop them, Hiccup says, but I'd try not to kill them when we don't have to. People can change. I did. My dad did. Drago didn't, but we tried. The Emperor studies him, like a teacher who finds an unexpected answer on a test. His voice softens, just a touch. Mercy is a dangerous luxury, he says, but sometimes it is the only bridge left. Very well, Hiccup Horrendous Haddock III. We will try it your way first. He turns back toward the sea and lifts his free hand. Light gathers around his fingers, not fire, not lightning, something deeper. The air bends. Far out on the water, the nearest hunter ships suddenly slow. Their sails strain uselessly as if the wind has turned against them. Chains on the dragon cages snap loose and fall away, rusting to dust in seconds. Dragons roar and blast their bonds apart, wings spreading wide. The pressure slams into the Emperor in the same moment. He staggers one step, then catches himself. Golden armor flickers. For a heartbeat, everyone sees what lies underneath. A thin man in plain robes, skin drawn tight over bone, eyes dark with endless years. Then the armor is solid again. The light fades. The dragons above the fleet pour from their cages and turn, some diving toward the hunters, some flying blindly away. Codex note: the Emperor's will can reach across miles to snap iron like twigs, but each such act strains both his borrowed body and the calm, young warp of this world. Hiccup swallows. He had not understood, not really, how much power was wrapped up in this one person. If the Emperor had not listened, the entire fleet might already be ash and steam. Are you okay? Hiccup calls. The Emperor nods once. Your world is soft, he says. I must be careful. Too much force will tear it open. Valka's eyes narrow behind her mask. Tear it open to what? She asks. To what hunts between the stars? The Emperor answers simply. Another horn sounds, sharper this time. Astrid comes alongside Hiccup. They're not stopping, she says. She's right. The freed dragons near the front are turning on the hunters, but the rest of the fleet surges forward. New flags rise. Not just Drago's skull, but other symbols. Hooked nets, burning brands, a cruel three-eyed mask. They're not just hunters, Fishleg says, squinting. He rattles off names in a frightened rush. That's Grimmel's mark, and Krogan's, and at least 3 crews I've only seen in books. They're all here. All the worst dragon hunters in the world, working together, Astrid says. Great. A sound rolls over the waves, deeper than thunder. The water swells and finally breaks. A massive head rises from the sea. At first Hiccup thinks it is another Bewilderbeast. White tusks, ice hanging from them. Eyes like pale stones. Then the eyes open and he sees something else inside them. A red gleam that does not belong to any dragon. Dark cracks run along its horns, filled with a faint, sickly glow, the same color as the ring that tore open the sky. It has been touched, the Emperor says quietly. By the warp, by the storm between worlds. This is the cost of my coming, a wound that others have already found. The massive dragon roars. The sound freezes the air. Dragons all over Berk flinch. Some drop from the sky, wings going limp. Toothless trembles, fighting an urge to bow. It's trying to take them, Valka gasps. Like the Alpha, like before. The Emperor steps forward and drives the tip of his sword into the ground. A ring of soft light ripples out from it, washing over Berk and the skies above. When it touches each dragon, they jerk as if shocked. The fog over their eyes clears. Toothless lets out a long breath. The urge to kneel fades. He looks at the Emperor with new respect and a little fear. Your beasts are brave, the Emperor says to Valka. They want to be free. I have given them a little armor for their minds. It will not last forever. And what did it cost you? She asks. He does not answer right away. The hand on his sword shakes once, barely visible. Little lines of light slip from the cracks in his armor and fade into the air. He looks older again for a second, then smooths, as if time itself is trying to catch him and failing. Enough, he says, and more will be required. Hiccup looks between the corrupted Alpha out at sea and the Emperor beside him. Every choice is bad. If they fight like they always have, they risk losing dragons to that new control. If they let the Emperor loose, he might break the world. He takes a deep breath. Okay, he says. Here's the plan. We meet them out there. Dragons, riders, and you. He looks up at the Emperor. We break that big guy's hold and scatter the fleet. We don't sink every ship unless we have to. We give people a chance to run, but we don't let them take a single dragon from Berk. Astrid nods sharply. I like the don't let them take a single dragon part, she says. The rest we'll figure out. Valka hesitates. Her gaze flicks to the tear in the sky, then back to the Emperor. If he flies with us, she says, the dragons may follow his will instead of ours. They will follow strength and trust, the Emperor says. I will not command them as beasts. I have done that before on other worlds. It brought only sorrow. He turns to Hiccup. Chief of Berk, he says, this is your home. I will act as your sword, not your hand. Hiccup nods slowly. Then we fly, he says. He looks at his friends. You heard him. Saddle up. This is going to be rough. The dragon riders shout and wheel away to gather the rest of the flock. The village below explodes into hurried motion. Vikings pull on armor, grab nets and bolas, load ballistae on the cliffs. Children are pushed into cellars. Gothi the Elder lights a bundle of herbs and starts a slow chant, watching the sky with clouded eyes. She feels the Emperor's gaze on her and meets it with her own. He sees respect there, and worry, and something like accusation. "You bring war with you," her old eyes seem to say. He answers with a small nod. "I always do," he murmurs, more to himself than to her. Toothless crouches and lets Hiccup climb back into the saddle. The Night Fury looks up at the Emperor. "Can you even fly?" Toothless asks through their bond, wary. The Emperor smiles, just a little. "I do not need wings," he says. He steps off the cliff. For one horrible moment, it looks like he will fall like before. Then the air thickens around his feet, as if he stands on invisible stone. He walks forward through the sky, each step leaving a faint golden circle that fades behind him. Hiccup cannot help it. "Okay," he says under his breath. "That's actually pretty cool." The Emperor moves to the front of the forming flock. Dragons spread out behind and below him, hundreds of colors and shapes, each with a rider clinging to a saddle or rope harness. They fly toward the shadow of the hunter fleet and the warped Alpha beyond. Behind them, the tear in the sky pulses once, like a heartbeat. On a world far away, miles of cables and tubes shake on the golden throne. Priests in red robes chant louder to cover the cracks appearing in their readouts. The Emperor feels all of it, both places at once. He pushes the pain down. His people will suffer a little more while he is gone. He chooses this anyway. He looks ahead at Berk's dragons flying as friends, not as slaves, and at the dark fleet that wants to chain them. In his heart, old as it is, something like hope moves. "Forward," he says. And the first war of dragons and an emperor begins over the cold sea. Cold spray hits Hiccup's face as Toothless leads the charge. The hunter fleet grows fast, dark hulls, snapping sails, cages like crooked teeth. Dragons roar all around him. The Emperor walks on the air at the very front, each step leaving a fading ring of light. "Remember," Hiccup shouts over the wind. "Free dragons first. Hit ships that won't stand down. Watch for the big guy under the water." Astrid lifts her axe in salute and peels off with half the riders. They go high to dive from above. Valka and her wild dragons sweep low, aiming straight for the cages. The Emperor raises his sword. Lines of golden light jump from the blade to the sea. They sink, then rise again as tall, thin walls of hard shimmering air cutting across the path of the led ships. The first hunter hulls slam into the invisible barriers. Wood cracks. Masts snap. But the walls angle the ships away instead of breaking them in half, turning deadly speed into rough, spinning crashes. "No ramming today," Hiccup mutters. "Nice move," Toothless says in his mind, tense but impressed. "Gives us less splinters to dodge." They dart ahead. Ballista bolts hiss past, glowing with some strange faint red burn along their tips. Toothless rolls, tucks a wing, and they slip through a gap. "Hey, those are new," Hiccup says, hearing the angry hiss of the bolts as they cut the air. He sees one strike a wild dragon's side. Blue scales blacken around the wound, smoke rising. The dragon screams and drops, wings flailing. The Emperor turns his head. For a moment, the air between the falling dragon and the waves below glows. A giant hand, made of soft light, catches the dragon and lowers it gently onto the deck of a hunter ship. The sailors there stare in shock as the wounded beast roars and sweeps them aside with its tail. Codex note: under strain, the Emperor can shape raw psychic force as solid hands, walls, and bridges, but each construct pulls more of his ancient mind into this soft, young world. Hiccup and Toothless skim low over another ship. Hiccup fires a bowler that snaps around a cage lock. Toothless blasts the doubled rope with a quick plasma shot. The knot explodes. The cage gate falls open, and a pair of terrified nadders burst out, frying the deck where hunters stood a heartbeat ago. "Go!" Hiccup shouts. "Fly, get clear, then come back if you want." The freed dragons wheel away, eyes still wild, then turn back when they see Toothless at the lead. They want payback. Snotlout and Hookfang roar overhead, trailing fire. Hookfang breathes a sharp, tight cone of flame that cuts through a row of raised spears without touching the men behind them. "Controlled burn," Snotlout crows, very proud of himself. Stormfly flips mid-air, flinging spines into ropes and chains instead of bodies. The twins drop barrels of sticky green goo onto decks, tangling feet and weapons rather than killing. Hiccup watches all of it, heart pounding. They are getting better. Years of training to use dragons as partners, not weapons, are paying off even now. Still, people fall, ships scrape. Sometimes a net hits wrong, and a man goes overboard. Sometimes a dragon blast lands just a little too close. Hiccup feels each loss like a small stab, but there is no time to freeze. Ahead, the sea swells. The warped alpha rises. It is bigger up close than he let himself imagine. A mountain of white hide and black horns, but the horns are cut with those ugly red-lit cracks. Water runs off its back in rivers. Its eyes glow pale. And even in the glow, Hiccup sees something else moving, tiny behind the pupils, like red smoke trapped in glass. The Bewilderbeast opens its mouth. The roar that follows is not just sound. It is a command, a push, a weight. Dragons all around Hiccup jerk in the air. Wings falter, eyes glaze. "Toothless!" Hiccup cries. "I hear it," Toothless growls. His body trembles. The urge to bow, to obey, to give up, claws at his mind. He roars instead, a wild, stubborn sound, and Hiccup's hand on his neck helps anchor him. The Emperor lifts his sword. The golden ring he drove into Berk's ground is far behind them, but the mental armor he gave the dragon still holds. Barely. He speaks, not out loud, but inside their heads. "Remember your choice," his voice says like a bell. "You chose this chief. You chose this sky. No beast owns you." The Bewilderbeast command slams against that word and slides off most of the dragons, but not all. Some scream and dive toward the giant Alpha, eyes gone bright blue again. Valka gasps. "We're losing them." "Not all," Hiccup says fast. "We can break its focus. Aim for the horns." The Emperor is already moving. He walks through the air toward the beast, each step heavier than the last. Waves crash in strange, square patterns beneath his feet, where his power pushes the sea away. The Bewilderbeast turns its head toward him. Red light pulses in the cracks along its horns and tusks. It knows this new mind is the real threat. Hiccup and Toothless shoot ahead. They dive between the Alpha's tusks, plasma blasting at chains that bind smaller dragons along its sides. Each freed dragon pulls away and joins the fight, or just flees. Astrid and Stormfly hammer spines into the softer flesh around its eyes, forcing it to blink and roar in anger. Fishlegs and Meatlug drop heavy rocks onto the cracked horns, trying to chip away at the glowing lines. The Emperor closes in. He lifts his free hand again. This time, instead of walls, he makes a spear. Pure light, thin and sharp. He flicks it toward the nearest glowing crack. It strikes. For a heartbeat, nothing happens. Then the red light in that crack flickers and goes dark, like a lamp smashed. The Bewilderbeast jerks as if a hook in its mind just broke. Half the dragons who were starting to bow suddenly snap awake and scream in fury. Again, Hiccup yells. The Emperor forms another spear. The second his mind touches the next crack, the world flips for him. He is not standing over the cold sea. He is falling through the warp, that angry, swirling storm between stars. Voices whisper, eyes open in the dark. Something old and sly smiles at him. "Ah," a not voice says, in a space that is not his mind and not the world. "You have left your throne. You bring your light here, small and pure. We can drink that." The Emperor shoves back, but the shape in the crack is ready. It wraps around his spear of power and pulls, not just on the spear, on him. For a second, everyone outside sees the Emperor jerk. The golden armor flickers again. Lines of light ripple out from his chest, as if something inside is trying to claw its way free. He cuts the spear off. The connection snaps. The Bewilderbeast roars and throws its head back. The Emperor staggers, almost drops to one knee in the air. The sea he stands on breaks, then reforms under his will. "Emperor," Hiccup screams. "I am still here," the golden giant says through clenched teeth. The crack fights back. Something clever hides inside it. "We must be subtle." "Yeah," Hiccup yells. "Subtle is not really this guy's style." Toothless dodges a blast of ice breath that freezes a whole sheet of sea behind them. He fires a tight plasma burst into one of the smaller cracks, just where Fishlegs marks it with a shouted cue. The blast chips away Horn, but the red glow there only flickers and then flares brighter. Valka pulls alongside the Emperor on Cloud Jumper, risky close. "What was that?" she demands. "I felt something, like a cold claw on my heart." "A parasite in the wound between my realm and yours," the Emperor says. "It rides the Bewilderbeast mind. It learns. It bites at my power, like a leech on blood." He glances up at the fading tear in the sky. It pulses again, red bleeding into gold. "Hiccup," Astrid calls. "More ships coming in from the side." He looks, and his stomach drops. A second line of hunter boats, smaller and faster, is sweeping around, trying to circle Berk from behind. If they get past, they can strike the village while everyone is busy with the Alpha. "We can't split," Hiccup says, thinking fast. "If we leave the Alpha, we lose all the dragons again. If we all stay, Berk gets hit." The Emperor hears him. He looks at the smaller, fast ships, then at the warped Bewilderbeast. "There is no perfect move," he says. "Only risk moved from one place to another." "Yeah, welcome to my life," Hiccup mutters. "Let me show you one more thing," the Emperor says. He lifts his sword high. This time, when it glows, it is not a sharp line, but a wide, soft halo. It spreads out over the sea like a thin golden mist. All at once, every dragon feels their bond to their rider grow clearer. Voices sharpen, fear and confusion thin. Hiccup feels Toothless's focus snap into bright, sharp lines in his mind. He also feels dozens of other dragons, quick flashes of thought, anger, loyalty, pain, joy. "I am lending you order," the Emperor says into all their heads. "Just a little, enough to fly like one instead of a scattered storm." "Is that safe?" Valka asks, alarmed. "For a short time," he answers. "Too long and you would stop being yourselves. I will not let that happen." With that net of calm spread wide, Hiccup can think bigger. "Okay," he shouts. "New plan. Toothless, you and me and a few others with the strongest blasts go for the horns. Everyone else, split. Astrid, take half to smash those fast ships before they reach Berk. Valka, you hold the middle, catch anyone falling." "And what do I do?" the Emperor asks, voice almost dry. Hiccup swallows and goes with his gut. "You hold that thing's mind," he says, nodding at the Alpha. Don't try to crush it. Just keep that red stuff busy. Wrestle with it. Give us an opening." The Emperor's lips twitch. "Very well," he says. "We will see if Chaos knows how to wrestle." He closes his eyes. Inside the Bewilderbeast's horn, in those red-lit cracks, the shape from the warp presses in again. It is many voices in one. It offers easy things. Make them all tools. Turn every dragon into a gun. Rule this sweet, soft world as your own. The Emperor has heard that offer 1,000 times in 1,000 forms. He sets his will like a wall and meets it. 2 storms crash. To everyone else, the Bewilderbeast just freezes for a moment, jaws half open. The red glow along its horns pulses, then steadies. Dragons feel a tug, then nothing. "It's holding," Hiccup yells. "Go!" Toothless roars. He dives for the left horn, plasma building bright in his throat. Hookfang, Meatlug, Cloudjumper, and a pair of Wild Skrill follow. They time their blast together. Fire, plasma, rock, and lightning hammer the horn where it already cracks. The air booms. Horn shards spin away, hissing when they hit the water. The red light there gutters. Half of it dies. The Bewilderbeast roars, more in pain than command this time. Astrid leads her half of the riders into the fast flank ships. They skim low, blasting rudders and snapping steering oars. Valka's dragons drop nets onto decks and then haul people overboard, dumping them in the freezing water close enough to broken hulls and floating planks that they can still climb out. "Leave boats that turn away," Hiccup's order echoes in their minds through the Emperor's net. "Hit those that keep pushing in." Some ships run. Some fight on and are smashed. Over it all, the Emperor stands in the air, wrestling a thing no one else can see. The shape in the cracks bites deeper. It wraps vultures of thought around the Emperor's memories, tries to turn them rotten. "You burned worlds," it hisses. "You killed your own sons. You are the lie that mercy tells itself when it picks up a sword. Why not be honest and rule as a tyrant?" His chest aches. He sees again all the lives lost in his long war among the stars. He hears Hiccup's young voice, stubborn and hopeful, saying, "People can change. My dad did. We tried with Drago." He pushes with that, not with his own pride, but with that small, foolish hope. "You do not understand mercy," he says to the thing. "You only understand hunger. You will not teach me." Outside, the Bewilderbeast stiffens. Its eyes, once all pale and red-flecked, clear for a heartbeat. A low, confused sound rumbles in its chest. Then the last of the red-lit horn on one side finally shatters under Toothless's blast and breaks away. The entire left side of its control field collapses. Every dragon under that half of its reach shrieks as the leash around their mind snaps. Freedom burns through them like hot water through ice. "Now!" Hiccup yells. Toothless, other side. They swing for the right horn. The parasite knows it is losing its anchor. It narrows its attack on the Emperor, tries one last trick. It whispers doubt. "You left your people," it says. "While you play with beasts and children, your true empire screams. Your throne rusts. Do you know what crawls over Terra now, while you hold this soft little island's hand?" The Emperor hesitates. For a moment, he sees it. His real body, ancient and ruined, slumped on the golden throne. The endless line of astropaths burned out in his name. The priests who whisper prayers to a god he never meant to be. He feels the pain of each small crack in that great machine. He hears the distant screams of souls lost in the warp because his light flickers while he stands here. His grip slips. Outside, the Bewilderbeast's right horn flares bright red. Dragons across the right half of the sky falter, wings twitching. "Hiccup!" Astrid cries from far off. They're falling again. Hiccup feels it too, like the ground tilting under his feet. "Emperor," he shouts, not sure if the man can hear him in that storm. "If you let go now, this thing takes everything. We'll lose them. Berk, the dragons, maybe more." He does not say, "Maybe your people were always hurting." He does not say, "Maybe this is your one chance to do something different." He does not have to. The Emperor hears it anyway. He remembers why he came at all. Not to win another war, not to break another army, to learn how these simple humans and their dragons share power without chains. "I will not fail this lesson," he tells the parasite. He drives his will down again, hard. The thing bites deeper, but now it hits stone. The Emperor bleeds inside, mind light pouring out, but he holds, and that is enough. Toothless's last blast strikes the right horn at the same time Meatlug slams a huge stone into it with all her strength. The horn splits. Red light screams out of the crack like steam from a broken pipe. For a heartbeat, a shadow shape rises in that light, all hooks and teeth and hungry eyes. The Emperor's gaze locks on it. "Back," he says. The word is not loud, but it carries the weight of 1,000 victories and 1,000 failures. The shadow jerks as if struck, then is sucked back into the closing crack and flung, howling, up toward the fading tear in the sky. The tear shudders. A piece of its red glow goes with the fleeing shadow, fading into the warp beyond. The Bewilderbeast freezes. Then, very slowly, its eyes turn from pale red glaze to clear, soft grey. It looks around as if waking from a long nightmare. Dragons all over the battlefield blink. The urge to kneel and obey is gone. A deep, rumbling sigh shakes the sea as the Alpha lowers its head. "I think it's free," Valka whispers. The Bewilderbeast looks at the Emperor, then at Hiccup, tiny on Toothless. It dips its head just a little, horns now cracked but no longer glowing. Hiccup lets out a laugh that is half sob. "We did it," he says. "Toothless, we did it." "Yeah," Toothless pants. "Let's not do it again." Around them, the battle slows. Some hunter ships are burning. Some are already sunk. Others back away, sails full, oars beating hard, running while they still can. One large flagship, marked with the three-eyed mask, fish legs named, turns broadside, cannons being rolled out. Its captain is not ready to surrender. The Emperor looks at it. He could snap it in half with a thought. That would put an end to its threat. It would also drown everyone still chained on its lower decks. He chooses another path. He points his sword. The sea rises in a single tall wave. It lifts the ship high like a toy, tilts it just far enough that the cannons roll to one side and crash through the railing into the water. Then it sets the ship back down, rocking, but still afloat. On the deck, the captain stares up, pale. Hiccup pulls Toothless around in front of the flagship. He cups his hands and shouts, "Drop your weapons," he calls. "Free the dragons you have left. Turn your ships away and never come near Berk again. Do that, and you live." "And if we do not," the captain yells back, voice shaking but proud. He lifts his chin toward the Emperor. "What does your golden god do to us then, boy?" Hiccup glances at the Emperor. The Emperor waits. He does not answer for Hiccup. His gaze is steady, unreadable. "He does what I tell him," Hiccup says. "He already agreed. So I say, surrender, and we let you go. Fight, and we stop you. Hard." The captain looks at the shattered Alpha in the distance, at the freed dragons circling above, at the golden man who just moved the sea with a gesture. Slowly, he drops his sword. "Chains," he bellows to his crew. "Off the beast, nets in the water. We're done here." One by one, weapons hit the deck, locks open. Tired, hurt dragons slink, or burst free. Some fly away at once. Some curl on the deck, too weak to move. Hiccup nods. "Okay," he says, voice hoarse. "Toothless, mark that symbol. If we see it near Berk again, then we talk, less nicely." "Got it," Toothless says. They turn back toward home. As they fly, Hiccup looks for the Emperor. He finds him a little behind and above, still walking on the air. The golden armor is dimmer. The lines of light from earlier have not fully closed. He looks tired. "Are you all right?" Hiccup calls. "I am diminished," the Emperor says. "This world takes more from me than I thought. That thing in the Alpha's mind bit into old scars. But I stand." "Good," Hiccup says. "We need you standing. We still have a lot of talking to do." "Talking," the Emperor repeats, almost amused. "In my wars, after a battle like this, there is usually only silence and orders. I will try talking." They reach Berk as the sun starts to sink. Smoke rises from a few damaged buildings, but most of the village stands. Dragons land on roofs, on cliffs, on the ground, filling every open space. Vikings cheer when they see the Bewilderbeast settling itself just off the bay, massive head low, no longer a threat. Children run to touch dragons' noses. Healers rush to tend wounds, human and beast. Gobber is already shouting orders for repairs. The Emperor lands in the great clearing again. This time he does not crack the ground. He steps down slowly, as if every movement must be measured. Hiccup and the riders follow. They slide off saddles, some stumbling, all exhausted. Valka walks up beside Hiccup, lifting her mask. "We survived," she says. "Because of him. Because of us. Because of both." "Yeah," Hiccup says. "And now we have to decide what that means." Later, when the worst wounds are bound and the dragons are feeding or sleeping, Hiccup calls a council. They gather in the great hall. The fire in the center burns low. Smoke curls up through the hole in the roof. Outside, the sea is a dull red in the last light of day. Hiccup sits in the chief's seat, not because he likes it, but because it is what chiefs do. Astrid sits at his right, Valka at his left. Gobber leans against a post, arms folded. Fishlegs and the twins sit close, whispering. Gothi has her own stool, small and worn, at the edge of the circle. The Emperor stands, towering, near the fire. He does not sit. At the far end of the hall, under guard, stands a small group of hunter captains who chose to surrender. Their hands are bound, but not cruelly. They look around with tight jaws and wary eyes. "Okay," Hiccup says, rubbing his face. "Let's start. We won the battle. Barely. The Alpha is free but hurt. The fleet is broken, but a lot of those ships got away. We also learned that thing in the sky let something worse touch our world." Valka nods. Her eyes are shadowed. "The dragons felt it," she says. "Like a dark taste in the water. It tried to crawl, up their minds. If the Emperor had not pushed it back, we might all be under it now." Gobber snorts. I saw what he did out there," he says, jerking a thumb at the Emperor. "Walking on air, grabbing ships, wrestling a monster in its own head. I've never seen anything like it. If that's what he can do when he's diminished, I'd hate to see him on a good day." Snotlout nods, wide-eyed. "He's like a god," he says. "Maybe we should build him a statue, a big one, with my face on the shoulder." Astrid smacks his arm, but her smile is thin. "He is a lot," she says. "But gods, well, we've had problems with the idea of gods before. People do weird things when they think someone can fix everything for them." Everyone looks at the Emperor. He watches them quietly. The firelight makes small shadows in the carvings on his armor. I am not a god, he says. On my own world, people say I am. They are wrong. I am a man who made hard choices for a very long time. Some were right, many were not. I will not wear that word here. Then what do you want? Valka asks. Why did you come, really? He looks at her, then at Hiccup, then at the dragons sleeping outside the hall. In my empire, he says slowly, we used beasts like your dragons. We shaped them to fight our wars among the stars. We bred them to carry soldiers, to burn worlds, to die and be replaced. We called it necessary. Maybe it was, but it cost us something. He lifts his sword a little, lets it sink back down. Your people do something different, he goes on. You ride with them, not on them. You talk to them. You let them choose. You still fight. You still kill when you must. But there is a bond. I needed to see if that is real, if it can last, if power and trust can live together. He meets Hiccup's eyes. If it can, he said, there is hope for my own people. If it cannot, then perhaps we were right to chain everything that breathes. The hall is quiet. Okay, Hiccup says slowly. So, today, we saved dragons and people. We tried to avoid killing. You held back when you could have turned half that fleet into toothpicks. That tells me you want what we want. But that thing in the Alpha's head, that was here because of you, right? The Emperor does not flinch. Yes, he says. My crossing made a wound in the storm between worlds. Something hungry found it and used it to reach your Alpha. That is the cost of my visit. It is not small. Astrid leans forward. So what happens next time you use your big powers? She asks. Does more of that red stuff leak in? Do we get more monsters like that? More whispers? There is risk, the Emperor says. If I twist your sky too hard, the wound grows. If I push my mind too far into your beasts, I might smooth out the things that make them themselves. I must act with care. Valka's gaze is sharp. What if you cannot, she says. What if the next attack is worse, and the only way to stop it is to do what you did 1,000 times before? Burn a fleet, burn a city, burn a world. Will you do it, Emperor? For us? For your lesson? He holds her look. My ethic is simple, he says. Humanity must endure, whatever it costs. I have lived by that line since before your people knew the word Viking. He pauses, then adds, quietly, but seeing your dragons and your trust, I wonder if I made that line too small. Perhaps it should be. Life must endure without chains, if we can make it so. Fishlegs clears his throat. So, he says, pushing his glasses up, for the record, we're talking about two ways of thinking. One, survival above all, even if it means doing terrible things. Two, survival that tries not to crush what makes life worth living. Good summary, Astrid says. Gothi taps her staff on the floor, then draws a quick shape in the dirt. A circle with a tiny dragon inside. A line going in and another going out. Hiccup looks. She's saying. He squints. That mercy is a door. It lets good in, but it also lets danger in. No door stays one way, right? Gothi nods. The Emperor looks at the old woman with something like respect. In my wars, he says, we closed those doors. We locked them. We said, no more mercy, no more chances. We lived, but we became something hard and brittle. Your world is softer, more open. It lets more light in. It also lets more darkness in. You must decide how much of that you can bear. Gobber grunts. Yeah, well, he says. Soft is not the same as weak. Berk's got plenty of scars. We're still here. One of the hunter captains speaks up then, voice rough. If your golden man hadn't come, he says, nodding at the Emperor, We'd have taken your dragons. Maybe you're young. We'd have broken you. So maybe your mercy needed a little help. Hiccup looks at him. And what about you? He asks. Are you going to stop hunting dragons now? Or are you just waiting until he leaves? The captain clenches his jaw. My father hunted dragons, he said. So did his. It's what we do. It's how we eat. It's how we pay the men with more ships than us. If we stop, they crush us. There's always someone bigger. So you chain dragons to survive, Valka says. And they scream. The man shrugs helplessly. They're beasts, he says. We're men. That's the way of it. Toothless, listening from the doorway, snarls softly. The Emperor speaks, voice quiet. That is what my people said about worlds, he says. We are men. These are just planets. We burn them for fuel. We call it the way of it. We say we have no choice. Sometimes that is true. Often, it is an excuse we tell ourselves, because change is more frightening than fire. The hunter captain flinches, for reasons he doesn't fully understand. Hiccup rubs his face again. Look, he says, we can argue all day about choices. Right now, we have a very simple problem. There's a tear in our sky. Something nasty used it once. It could use it again. We have a giant alpha dragon who's been mind-hurt and might not be stable. And we have a guest who can move oceans and mines but makes that tear worse every time he throws a punch. Astrid nods. So we need a plan that uses him but doesn't break our world, she says. And we need to know if we can trust him not to go full burn the planet to save the planet. She looks straight at the Emperor. Can we? She asks. He thinks. I cannot promise I will never choose the hard path, he says. If a foe comes through that wound that can swallow your whole world in a day, I will not stand by and watch because I am afraid of hurting your soil. That is not who I am. Hiccup's jaw tightens. He appreciates the honesty even as it scares him. But, the Emperor adds, I will listen to you. I will let you lead in your own sky. I will not act without you unless there is no time to speak. And I will seek ways to fight that use your strengths, not just mine. That's a start, Astrid says. Valka nods slowly. We will watch you, she says. We will trust, but not blindly. Dragons do that. Humans should not. The Emperor dips his head. That is wise, he says. Up to now, they have won a huge battle and freed the Alpha Dragon, but they have also learned that the Emperor's presence tears their sky, draws in new horrors, and that his way of war does not fit easily in their softer, trust-based world. Fishlegs shifts in his seat. So, about that something nasty, he says. Is it gone? The thing in the Alpha's head? The Emperor's gaze goes distant for a second. Not entirely, he says. I pushed it back. I flung its main piece away, but traces remain like poison in a wound. Your Alpha's mind bears scars that can be used again, and the tear in your sky still bleeds a little. Valka wraps her arms around herself. Can it talk to the dragons? She asks. Can it talk to us? In time, yes, the Emperor says. If we do nothing, it will learn this world's shape. It will find songs that sink into your dreams. It will offer little bargains. It is clever because it is made of thought itself. It does not need claws to hurt you. Astrid shivers. Great, she says. So how do we stop something that can crawl into our heads? The thing in the crack is not like a beast or a man, the Emperor explains. It is a piece of the warp shaped around an idea. Hunger for bright minds. It can drink my power if I push too much at it, like a sponge soaking up water. That is why it almost pulled me in. It is also why it is dangerous to your dragons. They shine bright in that storm because of their bond to you. If it wraps them, it can use that bond as a path into you. And because it is made of thought, it can attack with doubt, fear, and dreams, not just force. Fishleg swallows. So it's like a storm ghost that eats feelings, he says, and it gets stronger the more scared or angry we are about it. Yes, the Emperor says, that is close enough. Gobber scratches his beard. Then we'll just have to be very calm while we stab it, he says. People chuckle weakly. Outside, a dragon gives a small, frightened cry in its sleep. Hiccup hears it. He knows they cannot just sit here and hope nothing more comes through that wound. Before he can say so, the horn on the watchtower blows again. Not the long, low call for ships. 3 sharp blasts. Alarm from above. Everyone tenses. Hiccup is on his feet. What now? He mutters, running for the door. The others follow. They spill out into the cold evening. The tear in the sky is smaller now, more like a long red-gold scar than a gaping wound. But as they watch, it pulses. A small piece of it tears free and drifts down like an ember. It does not fall into the sea or onto the land. It pulls sideways toward the far cliff where the dragon nest caves open in dark mouths. The Emperor's eyes narrow. It is looking for shelter, he says. A place of strong minds to hide in. Your dragons. Valka's face goes pale. The nest, she whispers. The place where they sleep and dream together. If it gets in there. She doesn't finish. Hiccup swings into Toothless's saddle without thinking. Riders, he calls. Up, we go now. Astrid is already climbing onto Stormfly. The others scramble for their dragons. Valka leaps to Cloudjumper's back. The Emperor steps into the air and follows. They race for the nest caves. The ember of red gold warp stuff reaches them first. It slides through stone like smoke, vanishing inside. By the time they land at the main cave mouth, dragons are stirring, restless. Strange low sounds echo from within, half purr, half growl, not quite right. Hiccup's skin crawls. Stay back, he tells the villagers who have followed on foot. Only riders and dragons in here. Gobber, Gothy, hold the line outside. If we scream, shut the entrance, no matter what it sounds like. Gobber looks pained but nods. You got it, Chief, he says. Hiccup looks at the Emperor. You coming? He asks. I must, the Emperor says. This is aimed at me as much as at you. If I do not face it, it will find a weaker door. They go in. The nest is a vast stone bowl under the cliff, warmed by years of dragon breath. Dozens of dragons lie around, some curled, some sprawled, some half awake. The air feels thick, like before a storm, but inside Hiccup's head. At the center of the nest, on a high rock, sits something new. It is small, no bigger than a man, made of red light and smoke. It has no clear face, just 3 eyes of different sizes, each watching a different direction. Its body flickers between forms, sometimes wings, sometimes claws, sometimes a long floating cloak. Dragons closest to it stare up, eyes glassy. Back, Valka whispers, extending her hands trying to soothe. Come away, my friends. Back, back. Some blink and shuffle, but their heads keep twisting toward the thing, like plants turning to a strange sun. The Emperor steps forward. You are bold, he says to the shape, to come here so soon. The small warp creature turns all 3 eyes on him. When it speaks, its voice is like many voices layered badly. You left a trail, it says. We followed. You smell of burning stars, of war. We like that taste. We can feed on it for a long time. Hiccup's hands shake on Toothless's neck. He's used to fighting men, dragons, machines. This thing feels wrong on a level he does not have words for. What do you want? He asks anyway. The creature ripples. To help, it says, always to help. We will make your dragons calm, obedient, strong. We will make your people brave, and all we ask is a little space in your dreams. Astrid spits on the floor. Yeah, hard pass, she says. The creature's smallest eye turns toward her. Your fear is sweet, it says. We could make you fearless. You would never doubt again. Never worry that your chief will fail. Never stare at the sky and wonder what else can fall out of it. Astrid's jaw clenches. It hits too close. The Emperor raises his hand. Enough, he says. You have made your offer. Here is mine. You leave this world now. You sink back into the wound you came from. In return, I do not erase you. The creature laughs, a horrible, broken sound. You are far from your throne, it says. You are dim, dying. We tasted that in the Alpha. You cannot erase us. You can only feed us with your tries. It opens its arms. Every dragon in the cave flinches. Some step forward, unbidden. Their eyes darken. The Emperor's jaw tightens. If I strike you here, he mutters to Hiccup, low, I risk burning their minds. If I do nothing, you grow roots in them. So do what you did before, Hiccup says just as low. Hold it. Give us an opening. We'll break its grip. And if I cannot hold it this time, he asks. Hiccup looks at the dragons, at Toothless, at Astrid, Valka, all his friends. Then we all burn together, he says. But we try. On my sky we always try before we give up. The Emperor's eyes soften, just a little. Very well, he says. He steps onto the rock below the creature. He does not raise his sword. He only raises his hand, palm out. Light spreads from it, not blinding, just steady, like a lantern in a dark room. The creature hisses. Your light hurts, it says. So tired, so old. Yet still, it stings. We will drink it slowly. Golden and red glow crash together in the nest. Dragons whine. Stone hums. Outside, Gobber and Gothi hear a low, vibrating sound, like a giant drum being struck inside the cliff. Gothi closes her eyes and grips her staff tighter. Inside, Hiccup feels pressure in his skull, but it is less sharp than before. The Emperor is not trying to blast the thing this time. He is just holding it. Now, he grunts, do what you do. Talk to your dragons. Call them back. Valka steps forward, tears in her eyes. She whistles, trills, makes soft, familiar sounds. She speaks in the half-language she learned over years with dragons. Come back, she tells them. This thing is not your alpha. It does not love you. It only wants to use you. Remember the wind. Remember the free sky. Remember fire on your own terms. Astrid calls Stormfly by her pet name, tells her stories of flights they have taken. Fishlegs babbles facts about how dragons sleep better when they are not mind-controlled. Even Snotlout shouts clumsy but honest praise at Hookfang, telling him he is too cool to be anyone's puppet. Hiccup leans close to Toothless. You remember the first time we flew, he murmurs. You remember the cove, the chalk drawings, the fish. You chose me, not some mass of red goo. Me. Don't let it take that away. Toothless's pupils, which had been thin slits, widen. His breathing steadies. He shakes his head hard. The creature shrieks. Stop, it says. You are ours. You belong to fear, to hunger, to the old ways. No, the Emperor says. His light flares, just a little. The creature recoils. Lines of red gunk writhe backward off the dragon's faces, like worms pulled from soil. One by one, the dragons jerk, blink, and snarl at the thing instead of staring at it. It realizes it has overreached. It flickers, tries to dart past the Emperor, deeper into the caves, looking for some crack to hide in. He closes his hand. For now, he says, voice harsh. This world is under my eye. You will not nest here. He does not crush it. He wraps it, carefully, in a thin shell of force and thought, like a glass bottle around a spark. The thing hisses and claws at the inside of that unseen prison. If you keep it here, you will feed it, Valka warns. It will drink you drop by drop. I know, he says, but if I fling it back now, it may find a way to spread. I will carry it until I can place it where it can hurt fewer souls. Hiccup's eyes widen. In you, he asks. You're going to carry that thing in you. Not in me, the Emperor says. Beside me, in my shadow. It will gnaw. It will cost me. But I have carried worse guests. He turns his head toward the cave mouth. We are not done talking, he says to Hiccup. You have seen the first counter to my power. A bite in the warp that drinks my light and tries to twist your trust. There will be more. You must decide how much risk you accept in keeping me here. They walk out into the fading day. Behind them, the dragons settle, nervous but free. Ahead of them, Berk's people wait, faces anxious and hopeful. Hiccup looks at the sky, at the thin red-gold scar. For the first time, he sees it not just as a threat, but as a choice. Bringing the Emperor here gave them strength they never had. It also opened the door to monsters that do not belong. Somewhere between those truths, they will have to find a path. Night over Berk does not feel like night. The red gold scar in the sky glows faintly, like a half-healed burn. Dragons toss in their sleep. People wake often and listen for sounds that do not belong. By morning, everyone looks tired. Hiccup calls another meeting in the Great Hall. This time the door is open so dragons can stick their heads in and listen. The Bewilderbeast lies just off the bay, its massive head resting near the shore, one grey eye turned toward the village. The Emperor stands by the fire again. He has not slept. He does not seem to know how. Okay, Hiccup says, voice rough. To sum up, there is a piece of warp stuff in our sky. A smaller piece tried to crawl into our dragons. The Emperor has it bottled, sort of, and it really doesn't like him. That feeling is mutual, the Emperor says. Fishlegs lifts a slate covered in scribbles. I've been thinking, he says. The thing in the nest moved like smoke, but it talked like a person. It wanted minds, not just bodies. So its goal is to anchor itself in our world by tying into smart brains. Dragons. Us. Him. He nods at the Emperor. Correct, the Emperor says. It wants strong minds because they shine in the warp. They are like tall trees in a storm. Easy to see, easy to hit. If it binds enough of those trees together, it makes a new forest here that belongs to it. Astrid frowns, and standard counters fail because, she prompts, because usual tricks attack the wrong thing, the Emperor says. You can smash ships, it does not care. You can scare hunters, it does not care. You can even kill the dragons it rides. It just jumps to the next mind. If I blast it with my full power, it drinks that power and grows. If you ignore it, it learns your habits and waits. Valka folds her arms. So what does work? She asks. Trust does, he says. Your bonds to your dragons, clear minds, calm courage, and small, precise cuts from my side, not wild swings. We have to starve it, not feed it. Before anyone can answer, a scout bursts into the hall. He is out of breath, hair wild with sea wind. Hiccup, he pants. Chief, riders. You need to see this. Smoke on the north horizon. Not from our ships. And there's a strange light with it. Red. Like your sky wound, but lower. Hiccup's stomach knots. Show us, he says. They hurry to the cliff. Far to the north, a dull smear of smoke stains the sky. At its base, on the edge of the sea, A red flicker pulses like a slow heartbeat. The Emperor's eyes narrow. The thing has found allies, he says. Or made them. Fishleg squints. That's Skull Island, he says. A junk heap. Old ships, old nets, old traps. Hunters use it as a hideout when they're too nasty for anyone else. Some of the fleet got away yesterday, Astrid says. Looks like they ran straight there. Valka pulls her cloak tighter. What are they doing with that light? She asks. As if answering, the wind carries faint sounds. Distant dragon cries. Not wild, not free. Sharp and cut like pain. Toothless growls deep in his chest. They're hurting them, he says into Hiccup's mind. Using that red stuff. I can feel it like a thorn. The Emperor listens with his own senses. The bottle shadow at his side, where the captured warp piece sits, tugs toward the north. It is teaching them, he says quietly. Showing your hunters how to chain minds instead of bodies. If they finish, they will make brands that can mark dragons' thoughts. That will make my light bounce off them, like water off oiled skin. And it will make your usual tricks useless. Hiccup's jaw tightens. So we hit them now, he says. Before they finish. Before they brand every dragon they catch. Standard counters will fail, the Emperor reminds him. They will have prepared for dragons and for me. They will have tools that bite into my power. Then we don't use standard counters, Hiccup says. We use our kind, smart plans, weird moves, and just enough of your power to keep us alive. Astrid nods. I'm with him, she says. If someone is improving the worst people we know, we do not wait for them to finish. We go ruin their work. Valka hesitates. If we fly into a trap tuned for his mind, she says, we risk not just our lives, but our selves, our dragon selves. Are we ready for that? The Bewilderbeast rumbles from the bay, low and steady. Everyone turns. A long tendril of water rises from the sea, shaped by the Alpha's power. It curls in the air like a finger, then points north. He says we must go, Valka translates softly. He feels the pain of the dragons there. He says an Alpha does not ignore cries in his sea. Gothi taps her staff twice and draws a small shape on the stone with chalk, a circle with a dark dot inside. Hiccup looks. Storm in a cup, he says slowly. Trouble we can hold in our hands. She's saying this is still small enough to handle. If we wait, it won't be. The Emperor considers all this. You are choosing to meet the foe on ground it has prepared, he says. That is dangerous. It is also sometimes necessary. I will go. He looks at Hiccup. As your sword, he adds. Not your master. You lead. Hiccup nods once. Then we fly, he says. They launch within the hour. Only the best riders go this time. Hiccup on Toothless. Astrid on Stormfly. Valka on Cloudjumper. Fishlegs, Snotlout, the twins. Several wild dragons who have fought hunters before. The Emperor walks on the air beside them, quiet and watchful. As they approach Skull Island, the red light grows stronger. The island itself is ugly. A black rock clawed up from the sea, ringed with broken ships hammered into crude walls. Nets hang everywhere. Chains rattle in the wind. On the highest point, a new shape stands. At first, Hiccup thinks it is just a tall post with a cage. Then he sees the cage move. A dragon hangs there, bound in a web of glowing red lines. Its eyes glow the same color. The red light pulses out from it in waves, rolling over the island and the water. A figure stands on a platform in front of the cage, arms raised. He wears a coat of dragon-scale armor patched with new plates that glow faintly, like cooled lava. His left arm ends in a metal claw. His right hand holds a long staff tipped with a twisted, three-eyed mask. Hiccup's breath catches. Drago, he says. The warlord they saw fall into the sea once is back, changed, eyes burning, scars crawling with faint moving red symbols. Of course it would find him, Valka whispers. A man who already wants to rule all dragons. He's the perfect hook. Drago Bludvist looks up at the flock. His laugh carries on the wind. So, he calls. The boy chief, the dragon lover, and a new toy. A golden giant from the burning sky. You bring me many gifts. He slams the butt of his staff on the platform. Red lines flare around the cage. The dragon inside screams. The wave of red light that follows hits the approaching riders like a hot wind. Toothless flinches. For a moment, Hiccup sees double. The world of stone and sea, and a second world of swirling red and black, where chains made of ideas hang in the air. Steady, the Emperor says. He steps forward in the sky and lets the wave hit him first. Around him, dragons feel the pressure ease. He is taking most of it. The red light curls around his armor and pulls. The bottle shadow at his side shakes, like something trapped inside is laughing. You stole my pet, Drago calls. You bottled the whisper that chose me. It does not like that. It taught me how to bite you back. He lifts the staff. At its tip, the three-eyed mask opens. A thin beam of dark red shoots out, not at the dragons, but at the Emperor. It hits. For a moment, nothing shows. Then the air around the Emperor's chest goes grey. The golden light of his armor flickers where the beam touched. The lines of power there do not break. They go silent, like a song cut off mid-note. The Emperor staggers a half step. What is that? Hiccup yells. A null, the Emperor grits out. An emptiness. The thing you bottled learned how to shape a hole in the warp from inside your own sky. It uses it now as a spear. His left hand curls. He cannot feel part of his own power. His link to the bottle shadow is thin on that side. Codex note. A warp null weapon makes a small dead zone where minds and magic cannot move. Even the Emperor's will cannot cross that wound while it is open. Drago spreads his arms like a preacher. You see, he shouts to his own men. No God, no untouchable spirit, just another thing that can bleed. The voice in my dreams told me the trick. Make a hole in his light, make him small. He slams the staff down again. More red beams lance out, sweeping the sky. Dragons scatter. One wild nadder is grazed. Where the beam touches its side, scales go dull and grey. The dragon crashes into a net and hangs there dazed. The Emperor raises his sword. Golden light gathers, but slower on his left. I will handle him, he says. You free the dragons. Break his staff if you can. You sure? Hiccup asks. No, the Emperor says, but it is the best line I see. He walks forward through the air toward the island. Drago leaps down from his platform onto the back of a huge dragon below, one already half marked with red brands on his neck and shoulders. Its eyes burn with that ugly light. He rides it up toward the Emperor, laughing. The duel begins in the sky. Dragons swirl around them, but the Emperor and Drago face mainly each other. Drago's staff spits red beams, cutting small holes in the Emperor's light fields. The Emperor answers with tight, precise strikes. A push to deflect a beam here. A hard plate of force there to catch the staff's heavy swings. When he tries to throw a bigger blast, the red marks on Drago's dragon glow. The attack splits, sucked into those marks and bled away into the air. It taught me, Drago says, grinning. You taught it. You and your wars. Your way of burning worlds gave it every idea it needed. He swings the staff like a spear. The tip is edged with something dark, a shard of stone that swallows light. The Emperor moves to block, but his grey dead side is slow. The tip scrapes along the lower edge of his armor and cuts in. He feels cold, not normal cold. A hole deep in his side where his own mind cannot reach. For the first time in longer than he can remember, he feels missing. He drives Drago back with a blunt wave of force, then steps away, hand pressed to the wound. Light leaks between his fingers. Not bright gold, pale like sunrise through fog. Hiccup, Astrid says through gritted teeth as she dives past, hurling bolas at cage chains. If he falls, we're done. I know, Hiccup says, heart hammering. Below, riders and dragons fight hard. They tear at nets. They burn ropes. They knock hunters overboard with tails and wings. Valka climbs up the cage tower itself, using every scrap of dragon knowledge she has to pick her way between red marks and physical bars. The dragon inside is a big, monstrous nightmare, trembling, eyes wide. Easy, she whispers. Hold on. We're coming. The three-eyed staff turns her way for a moment, spits a small spark. It hits a rung near her feet. The iron there goes grey and crumbles. She slips, catches another bar, grunts. Don't let him see you as a threat, the Emperor calls, without looking down. His weapon drinks fear as well as light. Stay focused. Drago laughs. He speaks like a king. He jeers. But he bleeds like anyone. The whisper said you left your own throne, that you abandoned your first people to save these little islanders. Will they still cheer your name when they learn what you cost them? The Emperor's grip tightens on his sword. Do you know what you are doing? He asks Drago. Truly? Or are you just repeating the voice in your head? I know enough, Drago says. I know that dragons should kneel. I know that men who pretend to be kind are weak. And I know that the fire between worlds is hungry, and that hungry things back strong hands. He swings. The staff's tip glances off the Emperor's shoulder, leaving another patch of grey. Inside his armor, the Emperor feels the bottle shadow strained. The warp piece inside claws at its prison, excited by his weakness. It whispers, "Use me," it says. "Stop pretending to be better. Wrap these dragons in chains of thought. Turn this world into a fortress like your old one. Feed me, and I will patch your throne. Your ships will not fall silent. Your people will not die in the dark while you waste time on fish and children." The Emperor's vision swims. For a moment, Drago's face flickers. In its place, he sees one of his own generals from long ago, standing on a mountain of skulls saying, "We had to." He sees Terra. He sees the golden throne cracking. He hears distant screams from 1,000 light years away. He could fix it. If he stops holding back, he could pull this small, soft world into his web. Make Berk a lighthouse station. Turn dragons into living warp beacons and guards. Hammer these hunters into soldiers. The warp thing in his shadow would be fed, yes, but controlled. Used. It is everything he has done before, at a larger scale. It would save billions. It would crush this one fragile way of life. "Hiccup," Toothless shouts in his mind. His light feels wrong, like it did in the nest, but bigger. Hiccup looks up. The Emperor's aura has changed. The gold around him is sharper, more like a cage than a shield. Dragons near him flinch. He is gathering power. "Hiccup," Astrid calls. If he lets that go, he tears the sky wider. Hiccup does not think. He urges Toothless up, right between the Emperor and Drago. "Stop," he yells. "You can't do this." The Emperor's eyes glow bright behind his helm. "Hiccup," he says, voice deeper, layered with the warp thing's hiss. "Move. I can end this quickly. I can cut this infection out. One act, one burned island, one broken link. Then I can save so much more." "Save more where?" Hiccup shouts back. "Out there." He points at the sky wound. On some world we will never see, or hear right now with us. You chose to come. You chose this lesson. Are you going to throw it away the first time it hurts? The Emperor's grip tightens. You do not understand the numbers, he says. Your whole world is smaller than one hive city. I hold whole sectors in my mind. If this thing eats my light, millions die. Is your island worth that? Are these dragons worth that? Toothless bares his teeth. You asked if trust could live with power, he says, voice low. If the answer is no, then why are you here? Those words punch deeper than Drago's staff. For a heartbeat, the Emperor sees clearly. He sees Hiccup and Toothless, small and stubborn, standing in front of him even though he could crush them with a thought. He sees Valka halfway up the cage, risking her life for one shaking dragon. He sees hunters below, some cruel, some scared, all human. He also feels the warp thing in his shadow pulling, promising. He makes a choice. No, he tells it. I will not make this world like mine. I will not save my empire by killing its lesson. He lets go, not of the world, of a piece of himself. He cuts off part of his link back to Terra. He severs it cleanly, like slicing through a rope before it snaps on its own. Pain like nothing he has felt in ages tears through him. Far away, on the golden throne, a small but vital channel goes dark. A cluster of ships in deep space lose his light and vanish into the warp. 100 astropaths scream and fall silent. He feels all of it. The warp piece in his shadow shrieks. You starve me, it cries. You cut yourself, fool. It rushes at him, trying to fill the new gap. He slams the bottle ward tighter, even as blood, light, leaks from his side wounds. The power he had been gathering drains away. The gold around him dims, going soft again. Drago, sensing weakness, lunges. The staff's tip drives into the Emperor's side, right where the grey wound already is. Armor cracks. Light pours out. The Emperor gasps. He drops to one knee in the air. For a second, he cannot hold himself up. Gravity remembers him. He falls. Hiccup! Astrid screams. Toothless dives. They catch the Emperor not gently, but enough. He crashes into Toothless's back, heavy as a boulder. Toothless groans, wings straining. Too much, he grits. Cloudjumper swoops in under them, taking some of the weight. Above, Drago swings his staff up in triumph. See, he roars, your god falls. Your dragons will kneel. Then a shadow covers him. The Bewilderbeast has arrived. The Alpha rises out of the sea below the island, towering over nets and broken ships. Its horns are cracked, but its eyes are clear now. It opens its mouth and roars. The sound is not command this time. It is warning, defiance. The wave that follows is ice and water and deep old dragon will. It slams into the island. Nets snap. Walls crumble. Drago's platform shatters. He is flung sideways. His staff goes, spinning. It lands on the cage. Red lines flash. The cage bursts. The monstrous nightmare explodes out, covered in red burn marks but suddenly free. It turns on Drago with a scream that has waited for years. Below, hunters run, slip, fall. Some throw down weapons. Some try to fight dragons with bare hands. Most just try not to drown. Hiccup clings to Toothless and the half-conscious Emperor. Get him down, Hiccup pants. Get him to the rocks. We can't lose him in the water. Cloudjumper and Toothless manage to drag the Emperor to a flat ledge on the island's side. He slides off onto the stone, leaving a smear of pale light. Up close, the wound in his side is worse than Hiccup feared. The edges are grey and dead. Inside, instead of blood, there is a deep glow, flickering like a lantern in a storm. The bottle shadow shakes beside him. Fine cracks run along its invisible surface. Valka drops beside Hiccup, breathing hard. Can we even fix this? She asks. Gothi arrives a moment later, carried by a small gronkel. How she got there so fast, no one is sure. She limps to the Emperor, squints at the wound, then at the sky. She pulls a small charm from her pouch, a simple piece of bone carved with a dragon, and a man standing side by side. She presses it gently against the crackling air near his wound. Nothing grand happens, no big flash, but the glow around the charm steadies. The Emperor's breathing evens, just a little. Sacred intervention, not a cure, a reminder. In his mind, the Emperor is not on the rock anymore. He stands on a shore he has not seen in 10,000 years. The sky is different, but the smell of salt and wind is the same. Before him walk early humans, rough-clothed, laughing, arguing, sharing food with beasts that could kill them but choose not to. Among them walks a younger version of himself, tall but not yet crowned, listening more than he speaks. "You were not always a throne," a voice says beside him. He turns. A dragon stands there, not any species he knows. A simple shape of fire and smoke, carrying the feeling of all dragons he has met here. "You were once a walker," the dragon figure says. "You were once someone who chose to trust small things. Do not forget that, throne man." The vision fades. He is back on the rock. He feels weaker. He also feels a line of iron in his mind that is not the old, harsh kind. It is the stubbornness he saw in Hiccup, in Toothless, in Valka climbing cages. He opens his eyes. Hiccup and Valka both lean in. "Hey," Hiccup says softly. "Welcome back." "You refused," the Emperor rasps. "Toothless says you refused the easy path. You cut yourself instead of this island. That is not what most warlords do." "You're not most warlords," Hiccup says. "At least I hope not." He glances around. The battle is ending. Drago's dragon pins him against a broken mast. It does not kill him, but it roars in his face. Hot breath, making his hair crackle. Hunters who can still move are throwing down weapons or jumping into small boats, fleeing. Freed dragons rise into the sky, circling the Alpha and Berk's riders. Smoke from the burning bits of the island rises straight into the red scar above, smudging it darker. Up to now, they have struck the enemy's new base, broken Drago's mind weapon, and kept the Emperor from turning this world into another fortress, but at the cost of wounding him badly and cutting one of his own lifelines to his distant people. Astrid lands nearby, limping slightly. "So," she says, looking at the Emperor's wound. "That looks bad." "It is," he says simply. "The null cut and my own choice together have shortened my reach. I am not what I was yesterday. The thing in my shadow is angrier, and the tear in your sky still learns from every move we make." Valka wraps cloth around the edge of his armor to catch the leaking light, even though she knows it is mostly for her comfort. "The more you fight here," she says, "the more this place gets tangled with your wars, your enemies, your tools. How long can we keep that up before Berk is just another one of your battlefields?" Gothi taps her staff. She draws a new symbol on the stone, a small figure below, a larger figure above, connected by a line. Then she taps the bigger one twice. Hiccup watches. She says, he chews his lip. She says we can't answer that alone, that he nods at the Emperor, has to go back to whoever he answers to the bigger him, to the throne, to whatever decides his wars. He has to get judged. We have to get rules. The Emperor looks at the drawing. He understands. "I am my own highest judge," he says. "On Terra, there is only me, but there is also the myth of me, the god my people think I am, the weight of their prayers, the chorus of their fear. That thing has become something like a supreme authority, even over my own plans. He slowly pushes himself up onto one knee. If I stay here as I am, he says, half cut, half lit, with this parasite in my shadow, I will either break your world by trying to save it, or be broken with it. If I leave without fixing the tear, I doom you to slow infection. There is only one path that might change the pattern. Hiccup's brow furrows. Which is? He asks. I must face myself, the Emperor says, the part of me still chained to the throne, the part that has become a god in all but name. I must drag some of that weight here, or bring this shard of me there, and ask, is this worth the damage? We must make a law for how my light touches your sky. That sounds big, Snotlout says from behind, eyes wide, and kind of confusing. Astrid nods. Translation, she says. He has to go to whoever holds the biggest stick in his world, even if that's him, and get some kind of promise carved in stone. So he doesn't just do things and hope for the best. Valka looks at Hiccup. This is not our sea, she says. We cannot tell him what his throne should do, but we can say what we need. Hiccup nods slowly. We need the tear fixed, he says. We need that red stuff gone, or at least locked away where it can't reach us. We need him not to turn Berk into a fort unless we ask, and we need to know what happens to his people if he keeps choosing us. He looks at the Emperor. Can you even go back, he asks, in the shape you are now? The Emperor looks up at the scar. Yes, he says, but not alone. The path between here and my throne is thin now. I cannot carry all of myself along it. I will need anchors, minds that know trust and fear and hope in your way to keep me from sliding into pure war on the journey. He looks at Hiccup, at Toothless, at Valka, at Astrid. I will need you, he says simply. Astrid swallows. So you're saying you want to drag us into your head, or your palace, or your whatever that place is, she says. Yes, he says, to walk with me where I am not a man standing on a rock, but an idea nailed to a golden chair, to speak there for this world, so that when laws are made, you are not forgotten. Fishlegs raises a nervous hand. Is that safe? He asks. The Emperor could lie. He does not. No, he says. You will see things no one here was meant to see. The size of my wars, the cost of my choices. It may leave marks, but without your voices, the only ones speaking in that place will be priests and ghosts of my own past. Gothy taps her staff once. She draws a straight line from the small figure on the stone up toward the bigger one. Decision. Hiccup looks at Toothless. What do you think? He asks quietly. Toothless snorts. I think we flew into the sky for the first time to break a pattern, he says. To stop people and dragons killing each other forever. This feels like the same thing, just bigger and stranger. If someone has to say no to whatever his throne wants to do, it might as well be us. Hiccup laughs once, short and scared. Yeah, he says, of course you'd say that. He stands up straighter and faces the Emperor. All right, he says, we'll go. Not all of us. Berk still needs dragons and people here. But some of us. Me, Toothless. Valka, if she wants. Astrid, if she thinks she can keep us from saying something stupid. Astrid smirks. Someone has to, she says. Valka looks at the Bewilderbeast, who watches from the sea. She feels a deep, wordless yes from him. I will go, she says. I have seen what happens when men rule beasts with only fear. I will not let that be the only story he shows his throne. The Emperor inclines his head. Then we have our escort, he says. He pushes himself fully to his feet, swaying only slightly. The journey will not be like normal travel, he says. You will not leave your bodies on this rock. We will walk with our minds, our spirits along the scar I made. Your dragons will come as shapes of will. It will feel real. It will be real in the ways that matter. He looks at Hiccup one more time. When we reach the throne, he says, you may hear things you do not like. You may see that I am less than you hoped, or more terrible. If, after that, you still think I should leave your sky, say so. I will obey. That is the real mandate. Command and church together, Hiccup's rule and Gothi's sign. Send the Emperor of Mankind to face his own supreme authority, with dragon riders as his witnesses. The wind shifts. The red scar in the sky brightens, as if it hears its name. Tomorrow, they will step into it. Dawn over Berk is thin and grey. The red scar in the sky hangs low, like a line cut into the clouds. Hiccup stands on the cliff with Toothless under him. Astrid, Valka, and a small ring of trusted riders wait nearby. Gothi leans on her staff. The Emperor stands at the edge, golden armor dull but steady. Last chance to back out, Hiccup says, trying to joke. Toothless snorts. You first, he says. Astrid pulls her braid tight. If his world is as bad as he says, she mutters, it will be good for someone to tell him when he's being stupid. Valka looks up at the scar. The dragons will hold the sky while we're gone, she says. The Bewilderbeast waits in the bay. Berk will stand. The Emperor raises his sword. This will not be like flying, he says. You will feel your bodies fade. You will walk as thought. If you feel fear, hold to your bonds. Dragon to rider, friend to friend. That is your rope. Gothi steps forward and reaches up, surprising everyone. She taps the Emperor's armor once, then Hiccup's chest, then Toothless's head. A simple blessing. Come back, her eyes say. The Emperor nods. He points the sword at the scar. Step, he says. The world bends. For a moment, Hiccup feels his body fall away. The wind is gone. The cliff is gone. There is only a rush of colors and whispers. Then his feet touch something solid again. It is not rock. It is meaning. A path made of choices. They stand on a narrow bridge of light that stretches through darkness. Around them, shapes move. Thoughts, fears, prayers, like fish in a deep sea. Toothless is with him, but not in flesh. He's a sleek shape of black-blue light, eyes bright, tail whole. Okay, Toothless says, looking himself over. This is weird. Astrid stands nearby, wrapped in a faint storm of blue and gold. Stormfly at her side like a spinning wheel of spines. Valka glows green and bronze. Cloudjumper behind her with 4 beating wings of light. The Emperor is different. He is taller here, less solid. His golden armor is made of memories. Battles, cities, stars, all layered over one another. His wound shines like a dark crack, and the bottled, warp creature at his side scratches at invisible glass. Far off, Hiccup sees something huge, a distant shape like a tower of light and bone, sitting on a mountain of cables, a throne. That way, the Emperor says, nodding along the bridge. They walk. As they move, scenes rise and fall around the path like waves. On one side, Hiccup sees a ship the size of Berk, rusted, drifting. Inside, men and women in grey uniforms shuffle past shrines. Priests in red robes swing incense and chant under a symbol, a skull with wings. Imperial cruiser, the Emperor explains, warship that carries humans between stars. They pass a long hall where golden armored warriors kneel before a statue of the Emperor himself. Those are, Astrid asks. My custodes, the Emperor says. Elite guards, each a living weapon, sworn to my side. On the other side of the path, they see rows of metal beds. Thin people lie on them, eyes bandaged, skin burned. Medicae, the Emperor says. Healers for those who use their minds to send messages through the warp. Their work kills them slowly. We call it a duty. Hiccup's stomach twists. You built this, he says quietly. Yes, the Emperor says. They walk on. As they go, the Emperor and Valka talk. You call it duty, Valka says, voice tight. To burn minds like candles, to force beasts into war, to crush worlds for your people. Where is the line where duty ends and cruelty begins? In the numbers, the Emperor answers. If I do nothing, trillions die. If I do terrible things, billions live. I chose the second path. I still do. Hiccup shakes his head. That can't be the only way, he says. You saw Berk. You saw our dragons. We found another path that isn't just kill or be killed. Why can't your people do the same? Scale, the Emperor says. Your island is one stone. My empire is a mountain. Your dragons chose you. Our enemies do not choose mercy. You have space to be kind. We often do not. Sometimes you had space and still chose the hard thing, Astrid says sharply. You already admitted that. He does not deny it. I have pride, he says. I believed only my way could work. That is why I came. To be proven wrong, perhaps. The bridge shakes. Something moves ahead of them, blocking the path. A figure steps out of the darkness. At first, Hiccup thinks it is another copy of the Emperor. Golden armor, tall, sword in hand. But this one's armor is sharper. Spikes of scripture and chains cover it. Every plate is stamped with the word obey in 100 scripts. Behind his helm, instead of human eyes, 2 bright burning suns stare out. Welcome, the figure says. Its voice is the Emperor's, but colder, smoother. You bring pets and children to the throne, Shard. Have you fallen so low? The Emperor's fist tightens. Mirror, he says softly. A piece of what I could have been. Hiccup feels it too. This is Mirror Foe B. The Emperor as full god-tyrant, no doubt, no mercy, no voice but his own. Your flaw is doubt, the mirror says, circling them. You cut yourself to spare a handful of beasts. You threw away a line to Terra for a lesson. Fool, you could have taken Berk as a fortress, turned dragons into living shields for your fleets, saved suns in exchange for one world. But you hesitated. Hiccup steps between it and the Emperor. Yeah, he did, Hiccup says. And that's why we're here, because he chose not to be you. The mirror laughs. You think you won? It asks. You pulled a tooth and let the beast live. The warp still chews on his throne. His ships still burn. He's weaker now, and you are proud. It turns its burning gaze on the Emperor. Stop pretending, it says. You want to save everything. You fear failure more than anything. Use that. Cut these weak attachments. Come back to being what you were. Pure will. I can help. It lifts its hand. Chains of light lash out toward Hiccup, Valka, Astrid, the dragons. Each chain shows a small scene. Berk burning, dragons chained again. The scar widening. See? It purrs. This is what happens if you trust them. They cannot hold your weight. Let me take it. Let me decide who burns. You can sleep. The Emperor could step aside. He does not. He raises his own hand. I have done that already, he says. I became you once. It gave us ships and guns. It also gave us this throne, these screaming bays, this endless war. I will not walk that circle again. The chains hit his raised palm. For a second, nothing moves. Then the bridge itself answers. From behind Hiccup, a rush of soft light passes through him. Memories rise. Riding Toothless through the clouds, Drago's alpha bowing, the Bewilderbeast choosing to roar in defiance instead of command. The light light slams into the point where the two emperors meet. The mirror snarls. "What is this?" it demands. "Trust," Hiccup says. "His trust in us, our trust in him. You don't get it, do you? Power doesn't have to mean doing everything alone." Valka adds her own memories. Years with dragons, learning their moods, healing their wounds. Astrid adds every time she and Stormfly chose to pull a blow instead of kill. The dragons add simple, strong feelings: flight, warmth, choice. The Emperor pushes all of that forward. "It is another way to be strong," he says. "Not by holding everything yourself, but by sharing, by letting others say no." The mirror staggers. Cracks run across its armor. The word obey chips and falls away. It roars and swings its sword. The Emperor blocks. The clash is bright and short. Blade of control versus blade of shared will. In the end, a new light falls from above. For a moment, all of them feel something vast paying attention. Not just the man on the throne, not just the god image. All the layered belief of trillions focused here. A voice with no sound says one clear thing: reach the throne. The mirror is shoved aside like a piece of broken glass. It flies into the dark, still shouting. The bridge straightens. The Emperor breathes out. "Even my myth tires of you," he tells the fading shadow. "That is something." They walk on. The path widens and rises. Ahead, the shape Hiccup saw before grows clearer. Terra. He sees it as idea, not rock. A fortress world. Skies full of warships. A ring of giant platforms, each gun the size of a mountain. They cross through its clouds without weather touching them. Below, they see a city that never ends. Towers built on towers. Bridges stacked on bridges. Lights like a million stars. At the heart of it all rises the Imperial Palace, a mountain-sized cathedral of steel and stone, covered in statues, spires, and giant stained glass windows that show the Emperor in battle poses. Golden armored warriors stand at its gates. They are taller than any Viking, silent, perfect. "Adepts Custodes," the Emperor says. "My bodyguards, each one born to this task." Beside them stand others in white and red armor, carrying banners with burning symbols. "Sisters of battle," he explains. "Holy soldiers. They believe I am a god." Between them walk people with no glow at all, blank spots in the warp. When Hiccup's gaze touches them, his head aches. "Blanks," the Emperor says. "Minds that cancel other minds. Useful, terrifying." They pass through all of it like ghosts. No one sees them. They are walking inside the Emperor's own path to his throne, not in the palace halls. At last, they reach a final door. It is not made of metal. It is made of memory. Wars, sacrifices, oaths, lies, hopes, stacked so thick they look solid. Beyond it, Hiccup feels a pressure like the bottom of the sea. "Ready?" the Emperor asks. "No," Hiccup says honestly. "Let's go anyway." They step through. They stand in a vast dark chamber. At the center sits the golden throne, a monstrous machine of bone, metal, and light. Cables as thick as dragons snake out from it. Pillars of dim fire burn around it, each one a lighthouse in the warp. On the throne sits the Emperor's true body. It is a ruined thing, skin like dry paper, eyes empty. The armor is fused into flesh. Hiccup's breath catches. "This is you?" he whispers. "Yes," the Emperor says. "This is what happens when you hold an empire on your back for too long." But there is more. Above and around the dead body hangs a second shape, a giant made of light and prayer, the size of the whole chamber. It wears the same armor, but more perfect. Its face is the Emperor's face, but calmer, glowing. This is the supreme authority here, the God Emperor myth. It looks down at them with a gaze that holds all the fear and hope of billions. When it speaks, it does not move its mouth. Its voice appears in their heads, in simple words that somehow carry huge weight. "You have come far, small shard," it tells the walking emperor. "You cut yourself. You broke pattern. Why?" The emperor on the bridge stands straighter. "Because I saw another way," he says. "These people, this boy and his dragon, showed me that power does not have to crush those it guards, that mercy can live with war. I wanted to bring that home." The throne image turns its attention to Hiccup. "You are Hiccup," it says, "chief of a village, friend of dragons. Why should I listen to you? My realm is burned by gods and monsters. My enemies do not bargain. They do not change." Hiccup swallows, but he meets its gaze. "Because we were like that too," he says. "We hunted dragons. We killed them. They killed us. We thought that was the only story. Then we tried something else. We risked trust. We got hurt. Some people died. But we also got this." He points to Toothless, to friends, to flight, to a world where we are not always at war with everything around us. If we can do that with dragons, maybe you can do that with your own people, with your own power. Toothless steps forward. "I am not a weapon," he says, voice clear. "I fight when I must. I burn when my rider asks. But I also play. I love. I choose. Your worlds could have that. Your soldiers, your beasts, even you." Valka adds, "You cannot stop all pain," she says to the huge light. "But you can choose what kind of pain your people live with. The pain of chains or the pain of risk. We chose risk. It is hard. It is worth it." The throne image is quiet for a long moment. "You speak of things I made and lost," it says. "I once walked among humans with no crown. I listened. I learned. Then I built walls and guns and rules and forgot their faces." It looks at its own body on the throne. "I cannot stand up," it says. "I cannot ride dragons. I cannot hold every hand. But I can change how my light falls on your sky." It turns back to the walking emperor. "You want to keep a shard of yourself there," it says. "To guard that world, to learn, to bind a small parasite in your shadow so it cannot grow. You want to do this even though it means losing more of your strength here." "Yes," the emperor says. "If I do not, the wound I made will rot. If I do, I may lose sectors, ships, lives. But perhaps I gain something else. A new story. A new way to be strong." The throne image considers. "Our law has been simple," it says slowly. "Survive at any cost. You ask to add terms, to accept smaller reach, fewer tools, in exchange for more. Soul, more trust." Astrid steps forward. "Your any cost is already killing you," she says. "Look at yourself, at your throne. How long can that last? Maybe changing now hurts. Maybe not changing hurts more later." The giant light does not get angry. It listens. "At your scale, small chief," it says, "you are correct. At mine, all paths are pain. There is no safe choice. Only different wounds." "Then pick the wound that leaves you human," Hiccup says. "Not just a machine that wins." Silence. Then the throne image nods once. "Very well," it says. Lights shift in the chamber. They feel laws being written, not on paper, but in how the warp itself behaves around the Emperor's shard. "When you act in that dragon world," the throne image tells the Emperor, "your reach elsewhere will shrink. Each time you move seas or mines there, you will lose a ship, a beacon, or acquire here. You may no longer move with full force in two places at once. You must choose. When you shape dragons' thoughts, you must do it through their bonds, not over them. You cannot turn them into a drilled army without their free yes. And if those you protect in that world call for your hand to leave, you must listen. Your shard is bound to their rule. The Emperor bows his head. I accept, he says. Hiccup feels it too. A new rule wraps around the Shard Emperor like soft chains. Limits he chose. It makes him smaller and safer. It also makes his promise real. The throne image turns back to Hiccup, Toothless, Astrid, and Valka. You have been witnesses, it says. You have spoken for a small world to a vast one. You will return with marks. You will not forget what you saw here. That is the cost of this path. Hiccup nods. I don't want to forget, he says quietly. If I do, I might stop pushing him when he needs it. Toothless huffs. I will remind you, he says. You remind him. We make sure nobody forgets. The throne image's gaze softens, if such a huge thing can soften. Then go, it says. Reach your home. Hold your sky. We will see if this new law can live. The bridge shivers. The chamber fades. The last thing Hiccup hears in his mind is the throne image whispering, not to him, but to its own broken body. We are not only a throne. Then the light falls away. Wind hits Hiccup's face again. He gasps. He's back on the cliff above Berk. Toothless stands under him, flesh and scale and warm breath. Astrid, Valka, Cloudjumper, Stormfly. The others are all there, blinking as if they just woke from a strange dream. The red scar is still in the sky. The Emperor stands at the edge. For a second, his shape flickers, half light, half man. Then it settles into the golden armor again, cracked and dim but real. Gothi watches him closely. Her old eyes see more than most. No one speaks. The Emperor looks up at the scar. The throne listened, he says. There is a new law in me now. When I act here, something far away will pay the price. When I push my power, other worlds will lose my help. That cannot be undone. Hiccup takes a breath. And what about us? He asks. What did it decide for Berk? The Supreme Authority did not decide that, the Emperor says. It left that part to us. He turns. His gaze sweeps over Berk, the village, the dragons on the cliffs, the Bewilderbeast resting in the bay. There are 3 paths, he says. The world shifts again, but only a little. Not a full warp jump. A vision. They all see it. In the first, the scar closes. The sky over Berk is clear. The Emperor fades, turning into a thin line of light that rises and vanishes. Life goes on. Years pass. Without his warning and his shield, small pieces of warp stuff still poke at the world now and then. Shadows in dreams, weird storms at sea. Berk fights them alone. Sometimes they win, sometimes they lose. Far away on Terra, more ships stay lit. More worlds keep their thin protection. The Great War goes on as it always has. Path 1, the Emperor says quietly. Return. I go back. I seal the scar as best I can. Your world remains small and mostly unseen. My empire changes little. The vision changes. In the second path, the scar widens. The Emperor stays in Berk, not as a guest, but as a new king. His armor glows bright. He walks on the air and moves mountains. Berk changes. Nets and axes are replaced with neat ranks of metal guns. Dragons wear armor with glowing symbols. They fly in tight formations, eyes hard. The island becomes a fortress. New towers rise, covered with skulls and eagles and burning torches. Children are drilled like soldiers. The dragon riders fly out across the world, not just to save, but to judge. They decide who may keep dragons and who may not. The skies beyond Berk fill with strange ships. Imperial forces arrive, bringing their own wars. Berk becomes a bridgehead for the Imperium. The Emperor is powerful here. He saves many. He breaks more. Far away, Terra's light shines a little steadier. The warp parasite in his shadow grows fat, feeding on every act of control. That is the free agent path, the Emperor says. I cut myself off from my own law. I do as I think best. I become a second power here in your world, answerable to no one but my own judgment. It would make me strong. It would break what you are. Hiccup's stomach twists. This is the worst, he says. Astrid nods, jaw tight. Hard no, she says. The vision shifts one last time. The third path is strange. The scar stays, but smaller. A thin, steady line. It glows soft, not wild. The Emperor remains, but not always. Sometimes Berk's sky is empty of gold for weeks. Sometimes a battle on some distant star pulls him away. Sometimes he walks their air for a day and leaves again, weaker than before. When he is here, he does not stride like a god. He stands beside Hiccup, not in front of him. He speaks to Gothi before he moves the sea. He asks the Bewilderbeast to share the work of guarding dragon mines. Dragons wear no forced brands. Some choose small marks on their saddles. A curled dragon wrapped around a simple eagle, both perched on a jagged Berk cliff. A shared sign. The Emperor helps in the biggest storms. When red shadows try to crawl through, he pushes them back. He takes wounds and loses ships far away each time. He does not rule Berk. He does not command their raids. When he wants to act, he must listen. Far away, his throne flickers, but does not go out. The Empire shifts. Some worlds go dark early because he spent his strength saving dragons and children on a small island. On other worlds, new stories spread. Tales of a god who listened for once to a village. This is the sanctioned servant path, the Emperor says. I stay, but not as a king. As a warden, an ally, under laws we made together. I hurt my reach to protect this new bond. I let others judge my actions here, not just distant priests. The vision fades. They are back on the cliff. Wind, salt, the scar, the wounded Emperor. No one speaks for a moment. Then Astrid breaks the silence. Path 2 is out, she says. I will stab you myself before I let you turn Berk into one of those skull tower places. Snotlout raises a hand. Yeah, not a fan of the matching uniforms, he says. Valka nods. I do not want a god, she says. I want a neighbor. A hard one, yes. A dangerous one. But someone we can say no to. Not someone who turns our friends into tools. Hiccup looks at Path 1 in his mind. If the Emperor goes, they might get a normal life again. Normal by Berk standards anyway. No sky scars, no gold armor. Just raiders and storms and fishing and dragons. But he remembers the thing in the Bewilderbeast's head. The ember in the nest. Drago's staff. The way the warp parasite learns so fast from just one crack. Even if he closes the tear, it won't be perfect, Hiccup says. Wind still gets in through shutters. If more of that red stuff tries again, who helps? Us alone. The Bewilderbeast alone. I don't know if that's enough. Toothless grunts. And we saw his throne, the dragon says. We saw what his any cost has done to him. If we send him back with no change, we are saying we don't care. That his people can keep burning as long as our sky is clear. Hiccup nods. I don't like that. It feels selfish. Astrid sighs. So that leaves 3, she says. He stays as a guard, with rules, with real limits, with a promise that if he breaks them, we get to kick him out. Valka looks at the Emperor. Can you live with that? She asks. Knowing that every time you save us, you might be leaving some other world more exposed. Knowing that a chief from a tiny island and an old woman with a stick can tell you no. He looks out at the sea. Yes, he says, because if I do not bend now, The pattern never changes. Because I've made too many decisions alone. Because I came here to learn, and learning costs something. He turns to Hiccup. But I will not choose it for you, he says. This is your home, your dragons, your risk. You must say the word. Up to now, they have seen 3 futures and felt the weight of each. Safety with slow danger, fortress with crushed souls, or bound alliance with shared cost. Hiccup swallows. He thinks of his father, stoic, learning to let dragons in. He thinks of the first time he reached out a hand to Toothless. He thinks of the Emperor cutting his own lifeline to spare Berk. We're already tied to you, he says finally. The scar in our sky proves that. Sending you away doesn't untie that knot. It just makes it easier to ignore. I don't want to ignore it. I want to shape it. He straightens. I choose path 3, he says. You stay, as a sanctioned ally. A warden of the tier, or whatever fancy title you people like, but you stay under our rules when you're here. Toothless bumps his shoulder. We choose, the dragon adds, not as pets, as partners. Valka nods. Agreed, she says. The dragons accept you as long as you protect their minds, not chain them. You must never take their will away, even to save them. You help us hold the line. You do not become the line alone. Astrid lifts her axe. And if you ever try path 2, she says, eyes hard, we will do everything we can to stop you. Even if we lose, even if it hurts. You need to know that. The Emperor inclines his head. I do, he says, and I accept it. Something shifts in the air. Not a warp storm, a promise. Light gathers around the Emperor's breastplate. The old Aquila mark of the Imperium, a double-headed eagle, glows there. Beside it, another shape appears, a simple dragon in flight, wings curved around a jagged cliff. The 2 symbols twist and settle. The eagle's wings curve to shelter the dragon. The dragon's tail wraps the cliff that the eagle clutches. Neither covers the other. They share the space. At the same time, faint versions of this mark shimmer briefly on Toothless's harness, on the Bewilderbeast's horn scars, and in the air above Berk's great hall before fading. New banner, Snotlout says, trying to keep it light. New mandate, the Emperor says. A wave of soft pressure rolls out from him, touching dragons and humans. It does not control, it just announces. They all understand, deep down, what it means. He's tied to this place now, not as a king, but as a sworn guardian, bound by law from 2 worlds. Hiccup steps closer. Say it, he says, out loud, so we all hear. The Emperor nods. My name is the Emperor of Mankind, he says. In this world, I accept the role of Warden of the Dragon Scar. I will defend this sky from warp things and their servants when I can. I will not break your world with tools made for mine. I will not chain dragons' minds, even to save them. When I must choose where to bleed, I will count your small lives as real, not less. And if your chiefs and seers tell me to leave, I will withdraw my shard from this place. Gothi taps her staff in approval. The Kantiakur Bewilderbeast rumbles. Waves slap the rocks, soft and steady. Valka's shoulders loosen. Then we start again, she says. Not as hosts and guests, but as uneasy friends. Astrid smirks. Emphasis on uneasy, she says. Hiccup laughs, tired but real. Yeah, he says, but we'll make it work. He reaches out his hand. The Emperor looks at it for a moment, then takes it in his own. His hand is huge and warm, and for the first time, the grip feels less like being grabbed by a god, and more like shaking hands with a very heavy, very dangerous man who is trying. Codex note, By shared decree of Terra's throne and Berk's chief and seer, the Emperor's Shard is now bound as Warden of the Dragon Scar, limited to acts that honour dragon will and local law, and sworn to depart if called to withdraw. Epilogue. In the weeks that follow, the sky slowly changes. The red scar does not vanish, but it shrinks. It becomes a thin, steady line glowing pale in the dark. Children point at it at night and call it the Emperor's Crack, or the Dragon Road. Warp embers still twitch around it sometimes. When they do, dragons feel it. The Emperor feels it. Together, they stand watch. Drago Bludvist survives Skull Island. The monstrous nightmare does not kill him. It leaves him on a broken plank, floating. He drifts for days. The red marks on his skin fade, but not fully. The whisper in his mind is gone, bottled in the Emperor's shadow, but the habit of listening remains. He washes up on some nameless shore, coughing salt. His men are gone. His staff is broken. He stares at the empty sky and screams. No dragon answers. Somewhere deep in the sea, other hunters whisper about what happened at Berk and Skull. Some decide dragons are not worth the trouble anymore. Others dream of finding their own voices in the dark to give them power. Far away, on a hive world, under a sick green sun, an inquisitor of the Ordo Xenos spreads star charts across a holotable. A new faint pattern blinks there. A sector-long route that used to be bright is now dim. Something drains the Astronomicon, she mutters. Not chaos, not storm, a chosen absence. And at its edge, a tiny strange pulse. Soft, alien. Mark that, watch it. Her aides nod, uneasy. Rumours spread in quiet rooms that the God Emperor has turned a piece of his gaze away from the long war to look at some unknown world. On Terra, deep in the palace, a sister of battle kneels before a chapel icon of the throne. In the stained glass, the Emperor is shown standing alone on a mountain of skulls, as always. She lights a candle and bows her head. For a moment, her prayer shows her something new. The Emperor stands on a cliff beside a boy and a dragon. No skulls, just sea and sky. She blinks. The image is gone. She's not sure if it was a vision or just a tired fancy. Still, she finds herself saying a different word than usual at the end of her prayer. Listen, she whispers. Please, listen. Back on Berk, life goes on. They rebuild the docks. They mend houses. They make new saddles. Children play with hatchling dragons in the snow, under a scarred but calmer sky. The Alpha rests often, still healing, but its mind is its own. Sometimes it hums low songs into the water. The warp parasite in the Emperor's shadow stirs when it hears, but the bottle holds. Hiccup and Toothless fly patrols. Sometimes the Emperor walks with them, solid on the air. Sometimes he is just a distant sense at the edge of Hiccup's mind, busy far away. They learn the cost of his help. One night, he returns thin and pale. His armor's cracks are wider. We lost a fleet, he says simply. I spent myself here while a storm hit there. People died. I chose that. I will carry it. Hiccup does not tell him he chose wrong. He does not tell him he chose right. He just sits with him in the cold, listening to dragons breathe. Berk's people talk about the Emperor differently now. Some still mutter that inviting a Star War king into their sky was madness. Some light small candles under a new carved symbol of eagle and dragon in the Great Hall. Most just treat him like a very strange, very heavy extra dragon, helpful in a storm, annoying when he thinks he knows everything, stubborn, dangerous, and slowly learning. One evening, a small boy named Toughnut's cousin sits on a rock outside the village, looking up at the scar. His dragon, a tiny, terrible Terra, curls on his lap. What do you think he really is? The boy asks. A god? A man? Something in between? The Terra yawns. Big, it said. Sad, loud, trying. The boy nods. Yeah, he says. Same. He leans back and watches a night fury, and a golden-shaped trace loops across the fading light. On Terra, in the deep silence around the golden throne, the god emperor's myth shifts by a hair's breadth. In old hymns, he is only the burning king, the soul shield, the one who decides. In a few new, quiet songs, sung by people who had odd dreams, one more name appears, the listener on the scar. The story is small, a dragon world, a boy chief, an old warlord learning to ask. In the endless dark of the galaxy, small stories matter more than they should. And in a village on a cold sea, under a wounded sky, the emperor of mankind walks sometimes beside a dragon and a boy, guarding a tier he made, trying every day to be less of a throne and more of a man.